All right, so we have the database coming back looking for a user in the database, and if the username is a bogus username or one that hasn't been taken, it comes back with null. All right, let me take out the breakpoints here, and let's continue. And it's coming back as null since that user didn't exist. There it is, null. We can use that on the client side to run some logic. Right, so on the component, in the register component, there it is. We can check for this, right? If the user is null, right here, then we can create the new user, right? We can create the brand new user. We can say we'd like to do something like this, right? This user service, same thing, right? This dot user service, create user, and we'd like to pass in all the data about that one user. All right. Perhaps we can do const user, brand new user. We can create it with username matching this username, and the password, this password. Okay. Const user is not what? Is not defined. User. And we're going to pass in the user object right there. Now, create user doesn't exist right now, right? We never implemented it on the clients and the client service. What are you complaining about? Oh, okay. So this. Oh, I already have a user object here. So new user. Let's call it new user. How's that? New user. Copy. New user. And create user is not in the service just yet, so let's implement it in the service. Okay, it's this one right here. Let's go in the service on the client side. Let's implement create user. We had not created it. Okay, let's implement it. Let's do create user. Create user, and this takes as argument a user object, and is going to generate a URL out to our server, localhost 3100 API/user. Okay, and it's gonna to create new instances. We're gonna use a post, right? So you're following the RESTful service theme here, right? We're gonna say this.http.posts to the URL, and we're gonna pass in the user object as argument. Yes? Right, that's going to go out to the server. Eventually, it's going to come back. Right, and we're going to map the response. And we're going to parse the response. We're going to return the response parsed as a JSON object. Yes? Right. Okay, so on the client side, we need to listen for an incoming post. Let's see on the server side. Let's go onto the server. I don't believe we were listening for any posts, so let's listen for an incoming post to that URL API/user. So create user, which is going to be used right here. Function create user. We put response, and we can retrieve the user from the new user. We can retrieve it from the body, from the request body. Yes? Right? And what we need to do is now that we have the user object, the new user object, we need to save it to the database. Right, so let's do that. We would use a user model dot create user, which I don't believe exists. Does it? Maybe it does. And pass the new user object. This is going to go out to a database. The database is going to respond with a promise. We're going to register a callback, and hopefully it'll come back with the user object that was just created. Okay? And we can send it back in the response. Send back the user object that was inserted in the database. Right? And I don't remember if we implemented create user in the model. Let's see if we implemented it there. create user. We did. Apparently we did create it. Yeah, it's model.create. But it's using the old syntax, right? It's using the callback syntax. It's not returning a promise. So we're going to remove that. Instead, we're going to return a promise so that the service can handle the response, right? I think we're done. But the only thing that was missing here is here it's complaining. What's complaining about? Oh, okay. So if user is null, is going to call the create user. We need to subscribe to this, right? We need to subscribe, right? With presumably we're going to get a user object back from the server. And for now, we're just going to console log the brand new user onto the console right here. User, I guess maybe is next is already taken. Yes, so I will call this user from server. Okay. All right, I think that's it. Let's try it. Let's try it now. Let's put a couple of breakpoints in the user model server right here, because presumably we're going to be creating this this new user. On the server service right here, and the post is going to come in right there, and it's going to respond here with a brand new user that was created in the database. So let's try it. Let's see. Let's restart the server. Let's try register a brand new user. So let's register PO. And register. Let's see. Okay, we went out to the server. Here's the server. It's going to parse the user, presumably from the body. Let's see. Let's hover over new user. It looks like we have the username and password in the object that was passed in. If you notice, that's exactly what went out in our network. In our network, that's what went out. See, here's our post. Oh, this is our post. In our post, we sent a JSON object encoding the username and password. So we're on the server side. We're going to go out to the database. There's our database. It's going to create the user. It's going to return a promise. Hopefully, there it is. Our JSON object comes back, having been inserted in the database. There's our Mongoose object. And there's what was inserted in the database, PO. PO was not there before. Let's list all the users. Notice that PO is not there's PO, right? With username and password PO. And if we continue, it's going to be sending it back to the server. We say OK. Back on the client, there's PO, right? We're just spinning out to the console, right? We're just spinning out to the console. We have the new ID too. Now that we have the ID, now we can navigate to the profile. Now we can go out to the profile because we have the ID of this brand new user. Okay? So we could, here on the client side, on the component, right, after having created the user and having that's a service, the component. Where's the component? There it is. Here's where our brand new user. Now we can navigate with a router, right? We can say this.router navigate to I forget what's the. Let's go login. It's right here, right? So let me copy that. We are going to go out to the profile, and the ID of the profile is going to be user from server dot ID underscore ID. Right, so let's. So PO was added. Let's try adding someone else. Let's do R2. Let's register. Goes out to a database. Okay, it creates R2, comes back, and navigates to the profile. Navigates to the profile and looks for R2. Looks like it found R2. But it's complaining about a couple of things. Cannot read property ID from the profile component. HTML. websites. Oh, okay. So we don't have websites for R2. We don't have user ID. We should have user ID. Okay. Well, anyway, we were able to create the brand new user, its profile, and we navigated to that profile. The profile must have gone out to this database to fetch R2, right? Otherwise, it wouldn't have this information here, right? Here's the ID that went out to the database. So presumably, it went out to find the user by ID. I wasn't sure we had created that. So in the profile, user login profile, we parse out. We parse the user ID. There it is. And then we do find a user by ID. We subscribe. Okay, that looks good. And then it goes out to the server, and the server responds. Goes out to this get find user by ID on the server. We have that. Okay, this find user by ID. What is it doing? It's going out. Okay, it is using the database. All right, it is indeed going out to a database, finding the user by ID. There it is, find user by ID, which retrieves the ID from the database. Yep, so it is working. Right? So it's going out to the profile, to the database to get it. So okay, so we did the entire use case, right, of logging in, being able to create register as a brand new user, and then fetch that user to populate the profile. Right? So pretty much implemented all the various operations. Okay, probably the only one that is missing still is being able to update an existing profile. Right? So let's work on that next.